Hello and welcome back to the channel. Sorry it's been a while since I put out a video, but the wife was out of town and taking care of teenage girls alone is not something I would wish on any dad. Anywho, on to the topic at hand, which is the Demonology Warlock. I've given it our second look along with the rest of the Warlocks, which I've already done. The link to those videos will be in the description down below. At the start of the BFA Alpha and Beta, the Demonology Warlock was very fun and powerful. As we all know, this is not something Blizzard could stand for, so the nerfs came, and they came pretty swiftly. Most of the spells and abilities had their damage dialed back. There weren't a whole lot of big changes with the spells, though, but let's just go over a couple of them. First one was one that was across the board for Warlocks, which is Drain Life. Drain Life got a nerf from 600% healing to 500% of healing based on the damage done. Like I said, done for all Warlock specs, so yeah, that wasn't too bad. One spell that did get a nerf at the time during the first, I don't know, several iterations of builds for the beta was Summon Demonic Tyrant. Summon Demonic Tyrant got like nerfed, I guess. The nerf that it got made it feel particularly weak because basically what they did was they made it so they only extend the duration of your summon demons by 8 seconds as opposed to 15 seconds. But apparently they saw this and reverted it back again to 15 seconds. So it's back to how it was. Still feels very powerful again. But other than that, pretty much everything else was the same as far as baseline abilities go. So let's look at talents. Right, so let's look at the 15 tier first. Dreadlash is pretty much the same. Demonic Strength is pretty much the same, but the ability it basically buffs got a little bit of a change. That's Fellstorm. Fellstorm previously did 44% weapon damage every second for 4 seconds. Now it does a flat amount of damage every 0.9 seconds for 4.4 seconds. It sounds like a numbers balancing game and not really a whole lot else. Bile Scourge Bombers got its range and area of effect reeled in a bit, but it's otherwise unchanged. The range was like 100 yards, and now it's 40, and it the range, the area of effect was smaller now, so a little smallish change. But let's move on to the 30 tier. Demonic Calling got a bit of a nerf, if you want to call it that. It had a chance to make you summon Dreadstalkers instant and free. It was changed to having them cost 1 less soul shard now. So this makes the rotation feel a little bit more complex if you're trying to summon a bunch of demons for burst with Demonic Tyrant. So a little change. Power Siphon. Power Siphon is still the same. The narcissist in me wants to say that the changes to Doom, you know, were Blizzard listening to me, but I'm more realist than narcissist, I guess you'd say. They did change this now to have it where it summons a Doom card, but yeah, now has a 5%. Doom has a 5% chance to summon a Doom card to fight for you for 25 seconds if Doom kills the target. Yeah, that's not so great. But then on top of that, it had its damage nerfed quite a bit too, so it was kind of a drawback. I can tell you right now that with this 5% chance to summon a Doom Guard, there is a 100% chance that I will never take this talent. If they want to make Doom Guard a viable option, they should make it do its damage after like 15 seconds instead of 30 and give it a 25 to 50% chance of summoning a Doom Guard to fight for you. This would be crazy on trash and consistent on boss fights. Otherwise, this talent is just a complete and utter waste. All right, I'm going to skip over the 45 tier since it's not really going to have an impact on gameplay as much. 60 tier got a change, which is sort of a change, pretty much in the form of Soul Strike getting its damage buffed. Previously, it did not hit very hard. It still generates a Soul Shard, and at level 115, it is hitting about 10 times harder than it was hitting at level 110. So I'd say that's a buff. It has relatively short cooldown, but it doesn't really synergize with other talents, so it's going to come down to numbers game to see if this will be better, and I'm not really a numbers guy, so yeah. Level 75, also fairly inconsequential. You're going to choose Demonic Circle and never think about the others outside of PvP. 90 tier got moved around a little bit as far as Inner Demons being in the middle and Soul Conduit being on the left. I don't know why they did that, but that's a thing. Soul Conduit is unchanged. It's still going to give you 15% chance to for every soul shard you spend to be refunded. Inner Demons, though, is considerably more fixed than it was before. It was really buggy in previous iterations, and when I did my last video, it was extremely buggy. It would you'd summon these imps, you can see them right here and right here, randomly summon them, and then they would just attack everything, even things you weren't targeting. They would just attack, and you could never get out of combat, and it was a nightmare. So it's not so bad now, but you've got a bit more control over the auto summon imps, so it's a little bit better in that regards, but that's just a bug. Otherwise, the same basic effect is still there. It's a passive. I have, if you can see here, I have 2 talents here because I have the legendary ring, and it's going to work for me for about 2/3 more of a level, which is all I have left. After 115, legendaries do not have any effect afterwards, so I'll be trading that one in for something else. But the next talent that got changed is Grimoire of Service got changed to Grimoire of Felguard. This makes sense. It's a small change because whenever you use Grimoire of Service, you would use it to summon a Felguard, and the Felguard that it would summon was kind of like the duration was nerfed down to 15 seconds from 25 seconds, but it got the added component of dealing 50% increased damage, which is pretty good. So you don't get him for as long, but he deals more damage. So you summon this bad boy and then Demonic Tyrant, and you're going to get 30 seconds of extra demony goodness. But onto the 100 tier, Sacrifice Souls got essentially a rework. Previously, it would give you a 5% stacking buff to Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt for every soul shard you spent, and it would stack up to 5 times for 10 seconds. Now it gives you that same buff, but based on the number of demons you have summoned. Right now, I can tell you this isn't working the way it's supposed to as far as the tooltip goes. You can have a bunch of demons, and your Shadow Bolt's not always going to say that it's giving more damage, or your Demon Bolt's not always going to say that it's doing more damage, but they are doing more damage. I checked in the combat logs. It was definitely happening, so it is working as intended, but it's just not showing it in the tooltip. So it's pretty powerful, especially if you have a spec where you're going to be summoning shitloads of demons. It's cool. It's going to do a lot more damage. Probably, I would guess that it's going to do more than just the standard, bit that you would get, the max out from what you would get before. Because you can summon lots of imps if you're getting things clicking right. It could be very powerful, but it's got another, I guess it's got a layer of complexity that the other one didn't have. It would just, you'd spend soul shards, which you do normally. It was very passive. This one's more active. You're going to be trying to summon as many demons as possible. It's a build that synergizes with the idea of summoning as many demons as possible. So pretty good. I like it. We'll move on to the next one. So Nether Portal got a new look. It got a different icon, but it pretty much still does the same thing. Demonic Consumption still does the same thing. I think this is going to synergize better with Inner Demons, assuming they work, but it's going to take some testing and some numbers. I like Sacrifice Soul or Nether Portal. You get like a ramp up in your rotation, so it could be good. It's going to be, if I'm going for easy hardcore DPS, I'm going to take Sacrifice Soul. Sacrifice Souls because you're going to be, the build I have right now is one that's based around summoning demons, and this is going to play particularly well with that build. So another thing that wasn't in my previous video was War Mode and PvP talents. So let's take a look at those. Basically, when you have War Mode on, War Mode is going to increase your experience and rewards by up to 10%. So this is a little bit of a change to the wording in previous builds. It's still going to help you level faster, but before it would say it would give you 10%. Now it says up to 10%. So this kind of insinuates that there's a possibility that you may not get the full 10%, and it's going to add a little bit of randomness to that. I hope it's just a wording thing on here, but right now it doesn't look so great. But onto the talents. So the first row, if you will, of talents is basically your escape CC row. You've got 3 things in here: Gladiator's Medallion, Adaptation, Relentless. I'm taking adaptation on all of mine. It's a passive. All my characters, it's a passive. It's easy. I don't have to think about it too much, and because I don't really PvP, and hopefully I'm not going to get CC'd, so it's not going to be an issue. But let's look here at these next ones. The next three rows, I should say, are abilities and passives that can help you not only in PvP, but in questing out in the world of the new expansion. As far as I know, though, they don't work in old world content. As you can see right now, I have abilities on my bar, and they're grayed out, so I don't think they're going to work here in Stormwind. So let's look at this. The first one is Singe Magic. It's pointless since you will never have your imp out. It's great for the other specs. Probably work great for Destruction and Affliction because it makes the Singe Magic command demon ability of the exact name. Remove all magic effects instead of just one. Call Fell Hunter is kind of good, I guess. It works as long as you don't have the Fell Hunter active, but it's a spell lock. You get their ability, they'll instantly do it. So it could be good if you want to actually interrupt. I don't know how this works as far as summoning a demon. Might be worth looking into and seeing how that plays out. But I think some of the other ones are going to be more worth to have. Pleasure Through Pain, again, pointless. You're not going to have your succubus out, so might be good for one of the other specs for doing stuff with them. Call Fellord. Call Fellord is one that I really like. So, yeah, it's one that I really like. It'll be great in PvP if you're doing PvP and guarding flags in assuming that you can use these in BGs. I really just don't know because I don't do PvP, but it can be good for like if you're collecting stuff, if you've got one of those quests where you've got to gather a certain thing and there's mobs around it and you don't want to have to bother with killing them. You can keep this guy, he'll block them all out. So basically what it says is, summons a Fellord to guard the location for 15 seconds. Any enemy that comes within 6 yards will suffer up to 5% of their maximum health and damage, and player struck will be stunned for 1 second. So kind of good, I like it. It's the one I'm going to go with for right here. Then you have all the curses, which is the same across all the Warlock builds. They're great, but they don't really go with the flavor of Demonology. Curse of Fragility is going to reduce maximum health. Curse of Tongues is going to increase casting speed. Curse of Weakness is going to reduce physical damage dealt. Then you got Nether Ward, which is pretty good. It's a good defensive. Essence Strain is also good defensive, but will mainly only help you in PvP because that's probably the only time you'll ever use Drain Life. Casting Circle. I don't like Casting Circle. It seems like a bad trade-off for Unending Resolve, but I'm sure there's probably someone out there who can make good use of it. The next one that I like, and the one that I selected, is called Observer. I like the Observer from previous Demonology. I like the idea of having it. It's a different kind of demon. It summons a demonic observer to the area to keep a watchful eye over the area. Anytime an enemy within 20 yards casts a harmful magical spell, the Observer will deal up to 5% of the target's maximum health and shadow damage. So it's pretty cool. It's defense against casters and coming near you. I like it. And then this is... So, Call Observer is pretty much the best, or excuse me, not Call Observer, but Master Summoner is pretty much the best PvP talent here. And this is probably why Demonic Calling got the sort of nerf that it got. Master Summoner, your Call Dreadstalkers is now instant cast. I don't see how you can be a Demonology Warlock and not have this ability. So when you're out in the world and you're killing stuff out in the world, your demons, your Call Dreadstalkers is now instant cast. It's fantastic. I like it. It almost makes it to where having this ability right here is not worth it. I mean, they're going to cost one less soul shard. I guess that's good, but it almost makes it not worth it. I've never been a big fan of Power Siphon. It's on a 30-second cooldown. You're sacrificing imps to get more damage. I don't know. I'm probably not set up to synergize well with that, and I like this better, but I'm telling you, the Master Summoner is the best there is. The only downside to it is it does not work in dungeons. So, all right, before I wrap this up, I want to talk about Azerite gear real quick. So, as you know, you can have 3 pieces of Azerite gear: helm, shoulders, and chest piece. They have different abilities. These are supposed to replace your tier and stuff. So I'll just take a look at what I have here. This one I ended up taking the passive ability that's not really spec specific, because the spec specific one that I had is kind of RNG, and your Hand of Gul'dan has a 15% chance to burn its targets for 535 additional Shadow Flame damage every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. So it's like 1500, a 15% chance. I don't know, it just didn't seem as good. This one, it also has your spells and abilities, so everything you do is going to have a chance to grant you Meticulous Scheming for 8 seconds, which transforms into Seize the Moment after you cast 3 different spells, granting 154 haste for 20 seconds. Seemed like a little bit better option to me because it's everything you're doing. Then your next row you have is when an enemy dies, you heal for amount, you can get speed, and then the last one just gives you extra item level in general. So this one had a little bit better. When your Demonic Tyrant expires, consume its life essence, granting you a stack of Demonic Core and increasing your intellect by 295 for 15 seconds. Demonic Tyrant is a big part of your rotation on a 1.5 minute cooldown. And then this one again heals you, and then the item level. And then let's go to the last one, which is when your Implosion consumes 3 or more imps, gain 274 haste for 6 seconds. Haste is great. I like haste. It makes everything cast faster. You've got enough spells that take time to cast. You've got Shadow Bolt. You're never going to cast this one hard cast. It's 3.9 seconds. Hand of Gul'dan has a cast time. Call Dreadstalkers when you're in a dungeon will have a cast time, 1.7 second cast. Summon Vile Fiend has a cast. Summon Demonic Tyrant has a cast. So yeah, if you're doing some AoE stuff, especially because your main thing is going to be Hand of Gul'dan, it could be very good. So those are just a glimpse at some of the Azeroth gear abilities or whatever. But that's going to do it for this video. How do you feel about the changes to the Demonology Warlock? Does it feel fun to you now that its damage has been nerfed? That's always been a big concern, is that some people just, a spec will only feel well if it's doing great damage. But let me know how you feel in the comment section. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell, because I'm a sucker with no self-esteem and it helps. If you like this video, hit that like button like Mythic Raiders Motivation hit the floor when Mythic Plus loot changes were announced. And I will see you next time.